Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Grounds Committee meeting for the 13th of November. Sorry, January. That's the great stuff. I'm looking to late to that date. So, yeah, 13th of January. Hope everyone had a good Christmas and New Year. I've first of all an announcement to make, which is a little bit sad, but I'm sure that we'll give our delight at their future progression. Is that both James and Dimmy are going to be leaving us. They've both handed in their notice, but they're going to be going on to Pastures View, which, you know, I'm sure we'll congratulate them for their new ambitions. But you know, I'm sure we'd also like to thank them very much as well for their extremely good, you know, observations and input to many years of service that they've both provided. So I think that's a great achievement, and passing in thanks to all of them.
We'd like to clap as well.
Okay, so for the first start of the agenda is apologies for absence. I think I've got an apology from Councillor Adams. There's obviously declarations of interests. If there's any that come up as we go along, then please obviously, as usual, declare them. Anyone's got a declaration, having read through the agenda, that they want to say now. Otherwise, we can go as we go through. The next agenda item is to agree the minutes of the meeting of the 11th of November, which is what I got confused with before, as a true record. I'd like to propose that everyone's aware and happy with me to sign those off. Do I have that seconded?
Happy to see him.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next agenda item is to to receive the minutes of the meeting of the Plan Subcommittee meetings held on the 4th of November, the 18th of November, the 9th of December, and the 23rd. So I'll quickly run through those in the agenda pack. So if anyone's got any queries or anything we need to clarify, then please say so as we go through. So starting with the meeting on the 4th of November. And second page. So the Monday, the 18th of November at 6:34.
Yeah.
That's right.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
That is somewhat tangentially related to item number 3, Dunstable Bowling Club. Obviously, we had dealings with the Bowls Club before, with regards to Kingsway Park. I can't remember what it's called now.
Kingsbury. Yeah.
Kingsbury Park. Is there any update on what's happening with the Bowls Club and the Kingsbury Park Pavilion?
Funny enough, we did. We'll let Paul obviously explain, but we just had a planning application that's now been withdrawn. So it would seem quite strange how this has been going on in circles, but obviously Paul will provide an update.
The short version of that is nothing has changed from our perspective. I will give council a more detailed update at the informal meeting. Week today? No, 2 weeks today. The planning application has been withdrawn by the developer. not because they're not planning on going ahead, but because they wanted to make some amendments to it before resubmitting it. Those amendments don't affect their plans regarding the Bowls Club. So we're pressing ahead. We're currently drafting heads of terms with the Bowls Club to move in, so that nothing is delayed or lost.
Okay, so moving on over the page, there's two more on there, but I guess no one else has got any queries regarding those points. I should then move on to the meeting on Monday, the 9th of December. If anyone has any that they wish to raise on those planning applications. And then finally on to the 23rd of December. There's quite a few on that one. Anyone have any queries specifically? I will bring to the attention members of the particular planning permission for Rycroft, which is highlighted there, which does have a bit of a direct relationship with the grounds committee, because it related to potential problems that could cause with the cemetery. So obviously you'll see the comments as quite extensively attached to that. As I understand, that's still with CBC for decision, so we shall find out in future how that's been presented, but we have, as you can see there, put a comprehensive report together of where we stand from our viewpoint from it.
Can I just ask a question?
Absolutely.
I understand, having read the planning application online, it says that Councillor Hegley has called this in for discussion. Will you be asking, or will the plan sub be sending Nick to the meeting as such and talking on our behalf? Has that been agreed at a committee? Because if it hasn't, you won't be able to.
Okay. Do we have an update on that, Nick? Or
I only found out just tonight that it had been called in by Carol Hegley, so
right,
make representation to court to represent the town council.
Yeah.
Any hearing.
Okay, perfect.
Committee.
Thank you. Moving on to the final planning decisions there. I don't think there's anything else that's contentious or any further query, unless any other members have got anything they want to raise. Okay. Moving on to the action tracker then. Just quickly go through where we stand with some of those, because there's been a few updates. Obviously the first one on there is regarding the allotment land at each of the recreation grounds. That process is still ongoing. It's going to be part of the management plans that presented to the March 2025 GS committee. So that's all scheduled as described. Regarding the second one, the town centre planters, CBC confirmed that DTC to maintain the use of planters in the rain gardens in the town centre and be extended for a further 2 years to March 2027. The head of GS, John, has spoken to CBC head of highways about the repairs and the improvements to these CBC assets, and the matter is under review within CBC. Moving on to the next point, Green Spaces project. The installation of the defibrillator will take place alongside an interpretation panel and budget permitting a planted feature. A further update on progress is included in the grounds information report on this meeting, so we'll come to that in the report, and members will be able to see and have an update on accordingly. Moving on to the next point, sorting and gritting. You'll remember that the head of GS was speaking to CBC on this, and it was part of the agenda item on our last meeting. The update on that is that John has actually spoken to the CBC. It's encouraging to understand that they want a future partnership working together on this. However, I think it's been quite challenging for John to engage with the right people on it. So it's something that's still ongoing, and we hope to have an update later in the year. But obviously, CBC have said that they're going to have a review on this. Now, how and when they're going to schedule that and how many months in time that's going to be is open to interpretation. But as soon as we do get an update and it's on the action tracker, so it can't be lost, then obviously that will be shared with members at a later date. Next item is regarding the Pergola CCTV. There was a question raised by members with the pergola within the private gardens fell under the CCTV perimeter. And if I remember rightly, at a previous meeting, that raised quite a discussion around the table about looking at CCTV for their other assets to make sure it's properly protected. And to understand whether from an assets register portfolio to we've got this under tracked control. Office can confirm the pergola does fall within the sight line of the current CCTV camera in private gardens. However, the camera is currently not operating due to issues with the electric supply, and the head of GS is currently with CBC officers to relocate the camera to a more suitable location. So what's actually happened here is the building that it was attached to, which is the NHS building in the primary car park, has now been vacated because the camera was on the side of that building. Unfortunately, that took the power supply with it. So we have no CCTV from that particular camera. So that is being relocated, and we're looking at the possibilities of how that can be done and the best way it can be done. And obviously it has to be resited to give the maximum view possible from any CCTV camera in the future. But it is part of the network of CCTV cameras, and it is an important asset to us as a council, because it has led to prosecutions in the past where CCTV evidence has been passed to the police. So its worth is well documented and appraised there. That leads us on to the next item, which is the budget report, which is around the similar sort of thing, with Councillor Brennan had asked if there was sorry.
So can I please just ask about the timescale from CBC in terms of their review of the request for the planters to be repaired, because I think this has come up a few times before, so I wondered if they gave you any indication of when they would tell us what the answer to that was.
No, they've given me no indication whatsoever as to how quickly they want to do that, but I have impressed on them the need, and I've chased up again after Christmas to see whether or not they can give me some people to talk to try and bring that forward. But I haven't been given a timescale.
Chair, can I just ask a question?
I
I just wonder, on this tracker, it says the CCTV issue that you were just talking about is complete, but if the CCTV is not actually working.
No, that's the previous item. So that's the Pergola CCTV. That's still ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the CCTV that is attached to the building that is closed.
Yeah.
That needs to be replaced by us, because would assume CBC is not going to do that.
Well, they're looking at the area it can be best sited in. So there's complications regarding how that would be, whether it would be on our land or CBC, and how the electric supply and things like that would actually be connected up. So I think that all possibilities, if they're from what on that, John, has been looked at.
Yeah. So the camera is located on a pole, which is located on land which belonged to the NHS, with which we had an agreement to have it sited there. The NHS have disposed of that land, and in doing so, the electricity supply has been cut off. So we either get the electricity supply reinstated and have a new agreement with the new owner, or the discussions I've had with the CCTV team at Central Beds is that they would relocate our camera to a different suitable location. So at the moment, we're looking at those options. So that's why it remains ongoing, because it's not yet an issue which has been finalised. Okay. The one below it is marked as completed because I've given the answer to the question that was raised.
Yeah. So. So going on to the next one, which is the budget report. This sort of fed in from a question that Councillor Brennan had raised previously, asked if there could be more information provided on the CCTV in private gardens. is working as a deterrent, and how you sort of been specifically, and what benefits the council get out of it. Well, obviously we lead on to the work that's already been provided with the evidence that's been very useful in prosecutions in the past. But from the update on that, the camera forms part of a wider network of CCTV cameras across the town, which feeds into the main CCTV control room operated by CBC. The cameras are important in imaging community safety and tackling antisocial behaviour and crime. So, you know, it does all tie together. That we obviously need CCTV, given antisocial behaviour and the way the world is these days. It's important that all our assets are really covered as much as possible. You know, John's and everyone around the table I think is aware of that, and wants that to happen. Something on this, I think that we need to more specifically put together will be that I'd like to perhaps propose CCTV provision across a review across all of our assets and provisions, just to see if we could bring that as a report to future committee meeting. If that would be possible, please. I think, because I think that'd be really good to evaluate exactly what we have, whether we need more, whether we need less, but you know how valuable that is to the
Grounds or
If you do it across your whole premises, it's probably FGP, because you've got to look at all of your built facilities as well as your grounds as well. So FGP might be compliance issues.
Is that something that needs to be? Yeah. Do I need to spend that separately? Would you be happy to?
No, we
can join that board. Perfect. Okay. Is there any other questions that people have got on that? Okay, so moving on, we've got the allotment land at each of the recreation grounds. Oh, sorry, it's printed on the double side of that page. The budget report. Councillor tomorrow asked officers if an estimated retail cost of vehicles for the council could continue to buy next year's could be provided to see whether it can be forecast for some indication to slightly reduce the earmarked reserve for the vehicle replacement. You know, which would be a very valid suggestion there. Future spend proposals for vehicles presented to the committee will be included options for purchase of second-hand vehicles as well as new ones, along with the estimated income from the sale of the of older vehicles being replaced. However, the vehicles due to be replaced in 2025 have minimal value. The budget report indicates as an option to reduce the contribution to the vehicle reserve in 2025-2026. So that has been marked off as complete on the basis of that comment. So we will look at offsetting as much as we possibly can for second-hand vehicles in the future. But obviously that's limited depending on end of life on that particular year, and therefore has limited amount of impact to this year's budget. The next item on the budget report was for the Councillor Crawley asked if it would be possible to purchase more perennial bedding plants than bedding plants to provide a saving over the next coming years rather than just being annual. Over the last years, the council has diversified its planting in many ways to main display borders with 6 annual bedding borders changing to perennial planting. The borders either side of the new pergola will also be changed to perennial planting. So, you know, that has been quite a balanced viewpoint on that. And if I remember rightly, Kathy gave a very good review last time to an understanding for members of the difference between annual planting and perennial planting, and you know the need for annual planting to give the colour, particularly with bedding plants in the summer. So there is quite a balance there, which I think we seem to have got quite right over the years. Is there any other comments that any members would like to? So that brings us to the end of the action tracker. Next agenda item I have is for the budget proposals for 2025-2026, which I believe that Paul is going to take us through.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, you remember that we've talked about the budget at the last meeting of this committee. You've discussed it informally as councillors since. Particularly this committee, at the last time you spoke about the budget, as other committees, you were looking for ways to reduce the proposed budget, and you also set up a working group to look at the budget. That working group met before Christmas with councillors Atwell, Tamara, Alderman and Tarsky, and myself and John. We went through options in some detail, particularly around grass cutting. John talked through how we manage the estate, staffing, why we need the staff and the vehicles that we have. The upshot of that discussion was we spoke about overtime. So actually, we currently pay our staff overtime to work on Saturdays and Sundays to check all the parks and do litter bin emptying. So one of the savings proposals is to reduce that, so to only do Sundays in the 26 weeks of the summer, but not in the winter. So we think you would get away with not doing that work when parks are less used and people aren't there for as long. Therefore, there's less in the bins. You don't need to empty the bins probably for the 6 months in the winter. I'm saying probably because until you try it, something we don't know. We'll do it. The proposal is to do it and then review it. There was a discussion about removing all Sunday overtime through the summer as well. The feeling was not to take that step at the moment because we know that there is, on a hot day in the summer, you need somebody in the parks every day to empty the bins and make sure they're safe. We talked about removing the grounds apprentice post, which is the recommendation before you. So rather than remove staff who are employed, actually much better because we haven't got anybody in that post. So let's just not fill the post because that's creating an additional cost. So while that's been budgeted in for this year, that would make us a saving effectively for next year. And then we talked about the vehicle replacement reserve contribution. So the initial suggestion with the vehicle replacement reserve was to put it up to 75,000, which was a big increase. Suggestion is that we reduce the spend by 15,000, which we think we would get away with next year, but then to use £40,000 from the underspend from this year to make a set of 1 year saving for next year. So that brings the budget for next year down by £40,000 and means we can still buy the two things that we need to buy next year. However, that recommendation comes with a health check because in the vehicle reserve contribution every year needs to go up to about 50,000. So if we don't put it up to 50,000 in 25-26, we're then going to have to put it up to by 40,000 in 26-27. So while you're achieving the saving next year, we are going to be sat in front of you this time next year saying, do you remember this time last year, we said this budget was going to go up by 40,000. Well, now it really does need to. So you're delaying an increase, but you're not stopping an increase because we do need to replace our vehicles. We've already discussed that previously. They're the three changes we're asking you to recommend to FGP, this committee. The working group spoke for some time, so members may want to add to what I've said.
I would like just to add on that, just a point of clarification, that when we actually spoke about the post for
The apprentice.
the apprentice post, we're not actually, we all believe it's a great idea, and so don't get anyone wrong on that, because we all think it's a great idea, but we don't want to get rid of it, but we just want to postpone it until next year because it's just not appropriate to hit the budget with it this year. We really have looked everywhere we possibly could to trim this down to, you know, the bare minimum without losing loss of service. It's going to really be noticed by, you know, by residents. And I think if you know, I'd like to focus members' attention to the figure there of we found, you know, with the working group and the hard work of John and other members of the GES, how they've you know, done an amazing job to find savings of £78,454 on the original budget that was there. So I think that sets quite a marker for others to follow, other committees, but at the same time, it's a real credit to John and the team of how they've managed to achieve that. So a personal well done and thank you from me. And I'm sure other members will share that. Can we now open up to members for any queries and questions that they'd like to have?
Yes,
Yeah.
let me,
So I have a quick one.
Councillor Swaggart.
okay,
Councillor Swaggart first, then
yeah.
Councillor Brennan.
Would you, yes,
Yeah.
okay, thank you, Chair. I do, agree that we, officers done an incredible work, John and the chief executive in terms of our meeting, and there was a quite lengthy discussion on, where the savings should come from, how we should definitely make some of the savings. However, I do think we need to have further conversation as it relates to the overall budgets. I know a lot of money has been, we've found, like you said, 78,000 plus on this particular budget. I still personally, Chair, if I would just put it out there now, because I would like to have this conversation later, but I think it's probably the right time to have this conversation. While I agree that we've done a lot of work, I do think we need to look further into how we can save some more. I'm just to put that out there, considering the fact that we've gone from 16 point something percent to 11.89%, which sounds really great, but I would like to see this council bring the preset down even further. I've already, said exactly how I feel to the chief executive, because I do think there's still a little bit of saving that we can make on this budget. While I agree that we've done a lot of work, so please understand where I'm coming from. So I'll give you an example. My view was, when we had this meeting, is that we should take the overtime totally out of this budget, because I do think on Sundays it would not make any difference whatsoever if the Sunday overtime is totally saved. We have a saving of the 13,000 for the overtime of the overtime on Sundays, rather than just having half of the year. So in essence, what I'm saying is we still have I would be comfortable if this council agreed to somewhat a 10% preset rather than what it is. Now, that's just a small margin, and I've asked the question, what would a 10% be on preset? And I understand Chief Executive said to me, we would need to look for another £56,000 to get the precept to 10%. Now, I still think it's high. However, I think 10% is fair, considering everything that's happening in the country, considering what our residents are going through. That's a conversation that I would like us to have further, and I can give you some examples that pull off where we can have some more saving. But one of the points I think Sunday working is not necessary. I think whatever is done, whatever happened on Sunday, those cleanup can be done on Monday. If they're working on Saturday, but the void is there on Sunday, this council do not have the finance, okay, to pay for this service. Therefore, there has to be, we have to look for efficiencies. We have to look for some ways to cut down this budget rather than putting on the taxpayer. And that's my proposal at this minute. I might come back later after everybody said.
Okay, I'd like to first of all address that.
Yeah.
Because obviously you as part of the working committee that we were, and if we did discuss this at length.
Yes.
And in particularly, we brought up Bennett's Rec and the splash park and things like that, where on a hot summer's day, it would be pretty much impossible not to empty the bins and to actually have a service on a Sunday, because it will just the park in certain areas would be completely overrun. So I thought that's where we come to the agreement, because we did have three options: one, removing Sunday overtime altogether, or to just do it for 6 months of the year, basically, didn't we? And I thought that that was the agreed option based on, you know, those were at peak times of actually, you know, for the litter, and it needed to be kept clean and, as John said, safe.
It was an
so-
opinion. I'm just giving you the opinion that this council, as a related saving, even the government right now is thinking about ways to make cuts to everything. And we have to consider everything that we're trying to do in light of where we find ourselves. Okay, because you can make the decision to put up the precept, CBC could only put up the precept up to 5%. Therefore, we have to think critically, how can we just put up the precept to whatever we want? Because, you know, we don't want to make any cut. I totally understand, you know, some of this service, I mean, we've not gone to the extent of cutting services, right? But I am saying, to the extent that the overtime is paid out of this budget for the Sunday service, I think it would not make any difference if the overtime on this budget is taken off totally.
Okay, well, that was something, as I say, that was discussed
It was,
in
yeah.
the working committee, and I thought we had come to agreement. I thought that was the whole idea behind the working committee, to make these decisions to come to bring to members. So I thought that had been agreed. As for hitting a target, I don't think that it's feasible to actually turn around and say that we need to hit a 10% level or whatever on precept, and we all have to meet that. There has to be, although I understand your point completely about the way the world is at the moment, and you know, the cost of living and everything else. We do need to be absolutely mindful of that, but there's only so much you can do to actually push these things down before they start to affect service and what residents would actually notice. I don't think it's possible to actually work to a particular number and say that we've got to hit 10% no matter what, and just, you know, regardless of the effects that will have.
I think somebody have to make a decision, Chair. I think the decision is down to members to agree whether or not the precept at this level is absolutely fine or not. My view is this members needs to make a decision on reducing the precept. I'm saying it would be better if it's lower than 10%. I would like to see 5-6%, but I understand where we are. So I'm not taking, you know, an absolute, you know, decision on whether or not this needs to be at this. But I still feel that this is the precept is too high, and we as members were elected to this chamber to make the decision on behalf of us, to represent this town. And I mean, if you think about nobody was expecting £70,000 on NI contribution. I know that's lots of stuff. These are decisions that government has made us affected what we're doing. But at the same time, we need to consider our residents while we make the decision. And my view is we need to get this budget down lower than what the current preset is. I'll leave it there.
Take on board what you're saying. However, there has to be a limit between that and a balance between service and how we actually need to you know, do this. But you know, we do have to make difficult decisions in situations like this. And you know, I think we have done an awful lot of work here, both with the working group and what the officers have done in trying to make you know, the cuts that we can. But yeah, it's open to members, of course, if we can make suggestions and make further savings.
Yes, I do.
Like you, I would love to get it down to 6% or whatever, but you know, we have to be practical and we have to make pragmatic decisions based upon that. I think Councillor Brennan was next.
Yes, I have a comment about the decision for bins within not decision, but the idea of not emptying the bins as much in the winter months. Now, Croft Green, there's a dog poop bin and it is regularly overflowing. Like, we need to bear in mind that dog walkers walk their dogs in all weathers at all times of year, and poop bins do overflow and become very unsightly, and then we get lots of complaints because it's minging. Like overflowing dog poop is not nice. And so if we can, like, I understand, like, I like the idea of looking at where expenditure is too much and not strictly necessary. And I like the idea that obviously in the winter we're going to be using the parks less, but I think we really need to target that for specific things. And please keep an eye on the poop bin in Croft Green, because it gets well annoying.
Do we manage Croft Green? We do not manage Croft Green. It's just pick the CBC about
What, the poop bin? Oh, okay. But so the other thing, I do agree with the idea of reducing the budget more, because, you know, 11% increase is really high and we need to be doing everything we can. I do not agree with the idea of just cutting all overtime. There's obviously a reason that it's there. I wasn't part of the budget discussions, but I've heard that it was approached by the working group and decided not to go along with that. I don't think it's a very good idea, but I am open to loads of ideas if anyone has any more for reducing it. You know.
Paul or John, do you want to come in at this gesture or point at juncture, or no? Okay. Madam Mayor?
It's okay. I think Liz had her hand up. Did you not? Okay, you go first. So you were before. Yeah.
Hi. My question is actually relating to the question about overtime, and I wonder. Personally, I'm not really a fan of overtime. I think it's good to have a schedule that covers all working hours that are needed. My question is, are we paying overtime at an overtime rate, so more than the hourly rate? Okay, thank you. And then I just wondered if we could maybe understand, probably not this meeting, but at another meeting, how much spend in total we're spending on overtime. How much money do we spend on overtime? Is it just the grounds? Is it just that section that we are discussing at this meeting, or is there more overtime that we're spending? Sorry if that's a really bad question.
It's a good question.
That's a very good question, quite a complicated answer. So probably not appropriate to give a full answer now, because obviously you're asking about the whole council as well. The way the grounds team function, we have the team in and they work a full week, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And for a number of reasons, that team functions really well like that, and it's easiest to manage them like that. They work very much as a team. And overtime for them is extra hours on the weekend. And there are reasons for that, which to some extent the work group talked through. Different teams work very differently because things have evolved differently in different bits. So the Rangers, for example, don't work overtime. Their contracts say you work over a 7-day week, and it's rostered as to what day you do that. Most staff are rostered and take flexible time back rather than doing overtime, but there's some different examples of different things across the organisation. And then we have quite a few staff on casual contracts, like the support workers, for example. So that's a difference. Yeah. That might be a bit more of a personnel conversation to start with, I guess, in terms of our principles about how we manage overtime.
Okay, so would it be possible for us to have an overview of how much money we've spent on overtime? I know we've got a personnel meeting on Thursday. Is that a bit of a big ask?
I don't know how easy that is to get,
Okay.
but I'll see if we can personnel, then we will do.
Councillor Corner.
Thank you, Chair. I've got 4 items. I just want whoever knows the most to answer, if they can. So first one, obviously, as mentioned in the working plan, not working plan, but yeah, working plan earlier, bedding plants. I'm always going to hit bedding plants for some reason. It's just stuck in my head. 27,000 last year, 34,000 this year, and then just because it's on the table, 42 for the next 3 years after. Don't see how that is a reduction as mentioned in the working plan. I should have brought this up at the working plan bit. It's not, so it doesn't seem to be saving any money going forward. It just seems to be doubling from last financial year or this financial year to the year after next, from 27 to 42,000. Oh no, nearly doubling. So I just wondered if I could have some kind of feedback about that. I know we're only working on this next year's budget, but you know, once we move to next year's budget and we relook at these figures, that 27,000 will be forgotten, and we'll be working on, it's only a 8,000 increase. We can probably knock that down too again, and we'll have forgotten all of the good work we've made. Staff costs. What are staff costs, and why have they gone from 12 to 44k? Wages I kind of understand, but again, that's nearly double. Wage rates, staff costs and wage rates both doubling.
Where are you looking?
And there's probably a good explanation, and I've probably been explaining this before and I've forgotten. Where was I looking at that? I was just looking at it a minute ago. Staff costs was on page 30, page 40. Page 40, top of page 40, staff costs 12,000 last year, 12,707. This year, 44, and staff wages 20,000 basically to 38,000. Splash Park.
Yeah, because the splash.
Wow.
After we'd set the budget,
Mhm.
we then decided to employ the manager full time for the year.
Right.
So we didn't set the budget for what we're now operating on. So the operating costs and the staff costs have gone up. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
income has gone up as well.
Yeah.
Not as much as the staff costs, but that's why it's the significant.
I presume that's why catering concessions,
Yeah.
same reason.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I guess then that's big, isn't it? I guess the only question is the bedding plants then, because the other ones I
So-
kind of understand.
So the bedding plants isn't actually an increase in the bedding plant costs. It's an additional figure has been applied for something else, and that's the best place to put it within the budget. I think it's to do with SPF costs associated with, I'm looking at
That sounds right. Yeah.
with living columns, possibly.
Yeah. There are two parts to answer.
So
So
we've had to put the money into the budget.
So we're installing the living columns. That was an annual cost to maintaining those living columns.
Right, okay.
Once CBC had paid to put them in.
I would like to clarify that definitely and get back to you if that's
Yeah.
okay. But I know that it's definitely not an increase in the cost of purchasing and supplying bedding plants and containers.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely,
If it's good to get back, that'd be great. Thank you.
happy to do that. Thanks.
Salary costs then basically associated to that. Okay, thanks for the clarification. Councillor Jones?
I'm not on the committee, so as if I'll come in at the end. I'll come in at the end.
Councillor Brannan again.
Sanitary security, is that a service that we pay for, or is that a contracted service that we contract out?
It's the cost of employing a security company to do the locking up and unlocking the vehicle gates at the cemetery, and we also do it at a number of our recreation grounds as well, where we lock the vehicle accesses so that people can't gain access by vehicle after the hours of, I think, Mary, 8 o'clock usually in the evening, and they're opened again by our staff in the morning, and they're locked morning and evening at weekends, the evening and unlocked in the morning at weekends as well. Don't have those staff around. But there's also a cost similar to that on the recreation grounds budget as well.
Sure.
That's about managing antisocial behaviour.
Okay.
Which we used to pay our staff to do, but it's cheaper to pay the company to do it.
How long ago did we start the contract, and how long is the contract for? Do you know?
Rolling contracts which has been in place for some years, but I couldn't tell you the exact date.
Okay. Is there any way we could look into that, see if there are any cost savings available within within that contract?
We could review it, but I wouldn't hold my breath for any saving in that.
Okay.
Is there any other members from the committee that want to speak? No, okay. Councillor Jones?
Yeah, I just wanted to voice my concern that we're just putting off the inevitable for future years. I think in some of the things I can hear sensible conversations, but I am concerned, you know, removing the grounds apprentice post, yes, it's a saving of £16,500 just over, but that's an opportunity we've lost for the next 12 months of bringing in a young person potentially and building a skill set up that we are actually struggling to maintain and fill when we go out to recruitment. So we are, you know, ultimately we could be costing ourselves more money in the long run. I'm also concerned about the conversation around reduction of Sunday bin clearance, not just because I walk my 2 dogs, but I see the parks and open spaces, that the mess that's left even during the winter months of kids that still congregate in the parks at weekends, and you land up, I mean, there's dog walkers land up taking carrier bags to pick up the mess on some occasions. And I just think we have to take pride in our town, and I almost feel with some of these conversations when we're reducing the amount of pride in our town that we're going to have if we're not careful.
Thank you for your comments. I mean, I completely and wholeheartedly agree with you on that, and particularly with the apprentice post. You know, I was as passionate about filling as you were, but you know, with all due respect, we really are backs to the wall with the budgets. The working group did consider everything as much as we possibly could, and you know, without affecting service, and it was just one of the items that, as I said, you know, we're all passionate about, but we just didn't feel it appropriate to be hit with the budget from this year. And, you know, we're all trying to struggle to make savings wherever we can. Hence the reason why it was a very difficult decision to do so. But as I say, it hasn't been abandoned. It's just been delayed until the next year. So it's very much, you know, the benefits, as you state, Councillor Jones, regarding the, you know, the benefits of the council of actually bringing someone through and developing them, you know, is fantastic, and I don't think that's been lost, and that will be progressed, I'm sure, at a later stage. Okay, Councillor Tamara, I've got you down to, did you want to comment?
I think you, Chair, you did make the points. The other thing I would say is we did go through in terms of having the apprentices, which we all agree was really a good idea. But also on the point that, you know, we're developing a young person, which will be something that this council would love to do. But we have no guarantee, because we did that, because do you have a guarantee that this young person will stay? Or, you know, there's no guarantee if there's, you know, you train up somebody and they're going to stay. So yes, it's something that we should do in the future once, you know, we have the finance to do it, I will stress. But at the moment, this council do not have the finance. If you're going to put 10, you know, put the prices up this high, it tells me you can afford it.
I agree. I think we all agreed it was morally correct that we should go along this route and employ that apprenticeship position, but it, you know, it needs must as far as the budgets were concerned. Okay, do we have any further comments from any other members?
Of subjects of this committee, I just wondered, because I've struggled to open the community services committee agenda, and I was trying to get here and I couldn't make it last week. Were there savings made on that committee?
Yeah.
There were, yeah. I'll get it eventually, but okay, thank you. I'll take a look. Thank you.
So ultimately, members, you know, we've been asked that we do need to make a decision on, you know, considering the budget that's been laid out for us, with a forward recommendation for it to be accepted at FGP. So we do need to vote on that, on the budget as laid out on all of the spreadsheets that's actually here. And also you will notice that Appendix 3A, there's also the fees and charges, which has also been detailed there as well. So, you know, we do need to make a decision on this. So based on what people have actually gone through in their data, we do need to make a vote. Councillor Tamara.
Chair, I don't know if this is the right place to sort of come back to this, because I think, you know, you sneeze, you lose is sort of one of those things that I think we do every year. And when you don't speak up, you find out that the budget is voted in and then you can't do anything about it. Like I said earlier, Chair, I do think there needs to be more saving that we need to look for. There's few things that I am looking for. One, there's a conversation about, we currently have an empty property in this building, and we've had this discussion. If the chief executive will be able to give members an update as to my proposal and what what his proposal is, because I do believe, members, that because the property is not currently in use, we are losing money. Okay, we can do two things. We can either leave it and ask the taxpayer to pay for an empty property, or we can rent the property out until we have a plan. Because the issue is that currently we don't have a plan, a business case to have a functioning space, to have that space functioning. And therefore, we are losing money. Okay, and the council can either do two things: can leave it just the way it is and put the shortfall on the taxpayer, or you can rent the space out, whether for 2 or 3 years, which will cover some of that shortfall. Then if you decide, if we have a strong business case to say this can be a wedding, whatever we want to use it for, then we can come back to it. But at the moment, we have a property which should be providing something about £25,000 or whatever it is. And currently, there's a gap there that needs to be filled. And there's no business case for how soon we can have that shortfall. And that's one issue that I think we need to look at. I think that space needs to be rented.
Is this the room in this building?
Yes.
So that item is for FGP, not for this committee.
Okay.
So there was a
Alright.
section on the report that came out this morning which does address that. So we'll discuss that next Monday evening.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think it's important to clarify, we're just voting on the GES budget and proposals here.
Technically, I know, Councillor Tamara, you were talking about the overtime. You could propose an amendment to increase the overtime reduction to 52 weeks and then allow members to vote on that as an amendment.
Yeah, I
So
could do
then
that.
we'll know where we are.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's member, like I say, it's a choice for members.
Sorry, before we vote on that, could we just double clarify what would be the consequence of that in your opinions, John, in your guessing, John, and of no overtime, full overtime reduction?
Or Sunday only.
Oh, for Sunday, sorry.
My question was related to this actually,
Sorry,
because
that's fine.
there's, is it 2 weeks or next week for the Finance and General Purposes Committee? So there could be a number of things that we could consider at that meeting, supplementary to whatever we agree today. Because if we vote for the either or today, then your proposal gets lost. So, but we could vote on this budget provisionally, but also say that we'll take forward any of the recommendations to be considered along the other recommendations that might come to that group. Because then I think we'd look at this one alongside any of the other proposals that might come to that meeting and then weigh up the benefits or otherwise of those proposals against one another. Otherwise, we're going to rule them out before we give them, I think, proper consideration at that meeting. But
Yeah, but I think it could come back regardless. But I think the point in this committee is dealing with this agenda of whether or not we should deal with the overtime, because it's related to this, related to grant, and I think we should deal with it and say if members, agree with the idea of saving more money or not. And I think that's the point.
I think there's a question in here that it's important not to get lost, and that was one I think was raised a moment ago, to understand what the real impacts are of going down from the of the option of having no overtime on a Sunday whatsoever and to going for the 6-month option. And I think that was clarified quite clearly at the working group. However, for the benefit of members that weren't part of that, I think it might be advisable.
Yes.
That's for John to.
So-
update.
If you were to reduce the overtime for Sunday working to 52 weeks of the year, for the purposes of litter picking and bin emptying, that task would be undertaken across all your open spaces on a Saturday morning, not then be undertaken again until Monday morning at the very earliest. So I think one or two members expressed concern about a build-up of litter or a build-up of dog waste in bins and so on and so forth. The additional benefit that we get from having staff on site is that they also take a cursory glance at each of the playgrounds, and if they find broken glass, vandalised equipment, they're able to act immediately and deal with that as well. So that would be the impact. You would reduce that. As I say, the proposal is there because we see our parks and open spaces used far more in summer. Doesn't mean they're not used in the winter, but the impact would be slightly less. But that clarifies the situation.
Yeah, thank you, John. Based on your experience, is there an opinion that you would actually give to members to consider?
I would recommend retaining the summer working as a bare minimum as per the report.
Right.
Further questions?
Councillor
Thank you, John. Thank you, Chair. I just wondered if the time of the litter picking on Saturday was changed to maybe 5 o'clock, would that make a difference?
It would be very difficult for me to get my staff to come out at 5 o'clock in the evening and do that overtime work. They have, as I think as members have expressed, they also have lives and weekends. as well.
I say that, and it's why I propose
That's-
that we should not do this.
Sure, what's the first?
Chair. So just clarification, the workers work on flexi time, so during the weekend because they've been contracted.
No, so they work a full 37-hour
Yeah.
week, Monday to Friday, and they're paid additional overtime rate for
On-
weekend work.
On the weekend, so the weekend, it's either they come out on the Saturday or the Sunday.
They come out on Saturday and again on Sunday.
Okay.
Most people that take up the opportunity to do that do a Saturday and a Sunday as well on a rotational basis.
And would you propose for these workers maybe to have that period where they can work the 4 days during the weekend, take 1 day the weekend?
No, because that would have an impact on the working arrangements that we have where we need all of our staff in Monday to Friday working together. We often have to pair our staff up to work together or work in groups, and that starts to make that very difficult to achieve. Or among other things, safety reasons.
Yes, that was going to kind of be my question. Is there a way to adjust schedules so that maybe someone is working Thursday to Sunday or something like that? So there is not an additional hourly rate, an increase in the hourly rate because of overtime over the contracted hours? Or could we possibly look at maybe introducing a 0 hours contracts? I should know because I work in that area, but would it be possible to bring in, temporary workers to cover that element and pay them a base rate rather than an overtime rate? Is that a possibility maybe during that sort of peak period during summer?
Oh, sorry.
The town rangers who are contracted to work Saturdays and Sundays cover the waste collection.
Do you want to go?
So in terms of could we move people's contracts to flexi contracts instead of paying them overtime? Firstly, we absolutely couldn't agree to do that between now and budget setting because that's quite a complicated thing to do with contracts and consultation. Doesn't mean we shouldn't look into it and consider it for next year. But the reason we haven't gone down that path is because the 37 hours a week that 14 staff are doing is what we need to do to look after our parks and rec grounds, to do the grass cutting and the hedge cutting and all the tasks. What they're doing on the Saturday and Sunday is literally emptying the bins and checking everything's safe. So if there's anything wrong with a piece of play equipment, they will check it and they'll fix it or make it safe if they can. So if they don't do that on a Sunday, it just doesn't happen. If you took all those hours out from the weekend off the week, you'd then have less of the core activity happening, so you wouldn't have enough staff time to get the key job done that the grounds team do. So you can't just take those hours out. There would be an impact on the service we're delivering. So then you'd have to look at some having more hours. The question then is the issue that you're paying overtime, which is obviously more expensive rate than the normal rate. The challenge about bringing casual staff in for the weekends is these staff go around all our recreation grounds. So you're using staff vehicles and you're doing the play area checks, and they're not things you would just bring someone in casually to do their things, which it works because it's the team who know and understands the vehicles and the play areas and the context they're working in, where you have to put a lot of effort into casual staff to get them up to speed, and they wouldn't be as reliable in delivering that service anyway. So it might, we've spoken about it quite a lot. It bears further reflection and review. This was what we came up with as a way to address what might be a bit of an issue in the short to actually achieve a saving. Now, I think there may be other conversations, and your conversation about overtime at personnel maybe will be something that leads on to further conversations for future budgets.
That makes sense. Thank you.
The answer to the question with regard to rangers is that the rangers are rotated to, amongst other things, also look after the toilet provision in the town, Ashton Square toilets. They also support the events, particularly the markets, and they deal with quite a lot of additional work around the nighttime economy that occurs in the town and requires a lot of pickup on a Saturday and a Sunday morning. They also give us a little bit of flexibility when we have particularly difficult issues. For example, during the peak summer periods in Bennett, to be able to go in and provide some additional support over and above the overtime work. It would be difficult to get them to, to rotate them into anything much more than that.
Okay, well, we've heard quite a few comments in there and had quite a bit of a debate on this. So I can understand, and obviously Paul, correct me on this. I think first of all we perhaps need to have a vote on the Sunday overtime, which I think boils down to three options as far as I can see it: is we do nothing and leave it as it is for the whole year in place, or we have the 6 monthly option just for the summer period. Ultimate provision of just removing the overtime on the Sunday altogether for the whole year. I think based on people's opinions that the third option isn't really a fit starter unless.
Yeah, so I think we're doing the very thing that I was trying to avoid, which I think we do have to make a decision today in terms of taking something forward. But there's been quite a lot of discussion about possibilities for the future, which I wouldn't want to lose because we get a vote particularly on this particular paper. So I'm happy to have a vote on this paper, but I would rather not lose some of the suggestions that I think you've indicated there could be further work around. Maybe not for this budget year, but certainly should inform the next budget process. I wouldn't want to lose those things.
No, I think we're just voting on this particular aspect at the moment for the overtime. So Paul wants to do it a different way. Thanks, Brendan.
So can I just have clarification for what line of the budget the reduction in overtime will affect? Is it just the overtime? And I ask this because throughout the grounds budget there is about £32,000 under different lines of waste disposal. So under waste disposal in multiple different places, there's like £1,600, £8,800, £9,500, £9,100 in all of the different categories waste disposal. And I just wondered where that saving will come out of. Will it just be in the overtime?
So waste disposal is the cost we pay the waste contractor to remove the waste from our site once we've gathered it all together. So that's a different cost. So this budget is budget 200, which is staff and vehicle costs, and then it's 200 and 4,005. So that gives you ground staff over time, which is currently in at 13,000. 13,600.
That
next year,
reflects the reduction of 6.
which reflects the reduction that we're proposing. So that's with the 6,995 reduction baked in already.
Okay, because that wasn't different. That hadn't changed from the last budget that we got out. The ground staff number had changed from 950,000. That's ground staff. I'm just looking at them next to each other. The overtime number hadn't changed from 13,600.
This is still the full time number there. Sorry, that's a mistake. That's the full time number there. So if you agree,
Depending on what you like to do. Okay.
6,995.
Cool. So that waste disposal thing,
Yeah.
is that similar to my questions before? Are there any changes you could make to those contracts?
Funny you should mention that one, Councillor Brennan. Waste disposal, we currently have several different contracts across all our services. We're just in the process of putting out a tender for one single waste contract. Hopefully that will achieve a saving, although in current times I will not guarantee anything until we get those in, but we're seeking to make it to slimline. Obviously that would include the dog poo saving we're anticipating by putting all dog poo in the general bin as well, which was previously spoken about. So there should be an in-year saving on waste generally.
Okay.
Can I just respond to the question about if we vote now, do we lose it for FGP? What I would suggest we do is vote on Councillor Tamara's amendment and then either vote on a 52-week reduction or a 26-week reduction, and then this committee will make a recommendation to FGP. But I will make sure that the report that FGP receives the minute and the recommendation from this committee, but also receives the option that was voted on. So if FGP choose to revisit the issue, it will be written into the report in a way that members can go and vote on that again if they want to. So at least it's not lost, it's there. But I think that the principle should be that each committee makes a recommendation to FGP and FGP.
Okay, so on that context, are we going to make a vote now for the 52-week option or the 6 monthly option?
So I think
So I am gonna make a proposal on amendments. If is there an amendment or a proposal?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm proposing an amendment, members. The whole idea for me is about considering the current precept. Our residents as members expect us to, think about their bottom line, not just what this council does. Yes, we've got to protect what the town as a whole does, but I think it's critical. We have lots of people right now currently under dire strain financially, and it's our business to make sure we do our best to protect them. Therefore, and I also believe that the idea of, not moving the bins on Sunday or not picking litters on Sunday would not affect what happened in this. And that's my personal opinion.
It's not just Sunday though, is it? It's all of Saturday and Sunday.
No, it's just Sunday.
No, but it's Saturday when it gets done, so there'll be litter all Saturday and then there'll be all Sunday.
Exactly, 2 days.
It's 2 days of litter. It's the whole weekend. So we have one rowdy party in the park. I'm not happy
Sunday.
with being so at this point, but I don't want to go to a park. I won't take my son to a park if there's KFC wrappers and beer bottles everywhere.
Well,
for 2 days. So
well, I do understand. I do understand that too. But what we're saying in essence is, because we are not willing to make the saving or to make the decision to make the saving, our residents are going to pay for it. That's absolutely fine too. That's the decision that we're making as members.
Yeah, I'll take your point there, Councillor tomorrow. But also we've got to take on the spin of that, our residents' expectations. So I know you're forthright in bringing forward about the savings that we need to make on their behalf, which I completely agree with, especially in these times. However, there is an expectation there as well for residents for parks and things to have a level of hygiene and expectation of not having litter. And as Councillor Crawley's intimated, you know, you wouldn't want your kids to be running around in a park that's full of litter.
I don't think our parks are really.
Raises more safety issues.
Can we make a vote on this?
Yeah.
Please.
Can we just force the vote?
Okay, so
Would be good.
I think the question's around how we're going to vote.
So council tomorrow has proposed an amendment.
Yeah.
To change the recommendation from 26 weeks to 52 weeks.
Yeah.
The question then is there a second for council tomorrow's amendment?
Well, there's no second, so the vote is lost. Let's vote on the next one. Let's move on.
So let me vote on as per the report.
Okay, so we won't then vote on the recommendations as per the report. Just sort of laid out. Can I have a show of hands for that vote? Proposal stands.
So hang on, so you're just to clarify for members, you're voting on all three proposals at the same time, so 1.1, 1.2, 1.3.
Yeah.
So that needs proposing secondly.
Okay, so can we have a proposal for that?
I propose that we vote all three at the same time.
Okay.
I'm in favour of those.
So can I have a show of hands then for that proposal?
8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, I should say the abstentions. Abstentions and extensions. Any against? That's motion's correct, carried that. Okay, so we now need to have a separate vote on the budget for the fees and
Just done.
penalties for
You just done it.
the fee. A few fees are set, that will go straight, that will go forward, yeah, that,
Okay, move on to splash.
perfect, okay. So move on to the Splash Park information report.
It's hidden back here.
It'll be Lauren's, Laura Jones, yes, Lauren's.
Sorry, yeah, just to see you a little further back. Okay, good evening, everyone. So I'm going to hopefully whiz through nice and quickly for the Splash Park report there. So first of all, I'd just like to say we've got, so I've spoken to the company with regards to recommissioning Splash Park already. We've got a date set for end of March, which is about 2 or 3 weeks earlier than we did this year, in the hope that if there are any issues like we experienced at the start of this season, we can negate that, we can kind of sort them much faster so we're ready to hit the ground running come May. That should also hopefully give us a little leeway. If the weather's nice, we can be a bit proactive, get things up and running for community a bit sooner as well. So that's looking positive. I've got here that quotes have been gathered to fix the extractor fan and install bespoke protective caging. Bit of an update on that. That was installed at the weekend. So we now have got bespoke caging around the extractor fan vent on the roof, which unfortunately has been vandalised a number of occasions this year. So hopefully that will stop it from being a recurring issue. We'll see how things go with that. The cafe continues to be used by a number of groups, which is fantastic. We've got like regular bookings. We've got an art club, which are hopefully coming back after February, after their Christmas break. The detached team is regularly attracting a high volume of young people into the cafe, which is amazing. They're kind of really making good headway there in improving relations with the young people in the recreation ground. We've had a croquet club in, Dunstable Croquet Club. They've booked in 6 coffee mornings with us. We are about to have the 3rd, I believe, this Wednesday. Feedback's been really positive so far. They're enjoying the use of the space. They're enjoying the kind of access to the park and just the feel in the cafe. So that's good. Knit and Natter, I've had a few people messaging me again regarding times and coming along. So hopefully we're getting a few more people coming along to that as well. We were looking at revising the times just due to the fact that the lighting in the park it's a bit minimal around the building, which is just proving
bit of a negative surrounding people coming and going because having to walk through the park with quite low level lighting. I think both with the age of the people that frequent the club, as well as just a bit of a safety thing there. So, but potentially look at increasing lighting, which might help bring in a few more people there. I made some inquiries into whether or not we could host a junior park run in the park, again, just to provide a bit more of income in the cafe. Currently, because we're in quite close proximity to Houghton Hall when they run one there isn't any scope for it at the moment. Hopefully, though, with increased participation at Houghton Hall, they'll start to outgrow the venue there, and we can hopefully have a bit of overspill and get something running in, the coming years, which would be amazing. And we've got queries coming in with regards to venue hire, and we've also put adverts out for this as well. So all looking really positive. Apologies. I do believe we were just going into October half term at the point of our last meeting. So we ran a week's worth of activities at the cafe. They had a really, they again got a lot of positive feedback from community, which was fantastic. We had a lot of people coming in, utilising the facility, driving football into the cafe, which was lovely to see, and it really proved there is a bit of a there's a drive for it. There's a need for that kind of provision in the community as well. So it's great to see so many people in. Hoping to replicate that in further half terms as well. So we'll look at Easter themed activities for coming half terms too. We've run 2 Build-A-Bear activities at the cafe since our last meeting. They have been a wonderful success. It has been lovely to have so many people in. The Halloween Build-A-Bear, we actually oversold on spaces, which was wonderful, and we had far more interest than we initially kind of anticipated. And it was nice to see on the days as well. We had a bit of we were upselling on additional bears and outfits, which again, great for cafe income there. Although we didn't have quite the same uptake on the Christmas pre-bookable spaces, it was still really popular. We had a lot of returning guests, which was awesome, and a lot of requests for further sessions at other kind of major holidays throughout the year. So we're looking at putting those on again as well. At the Halloween session, I noted there might be a bit of scope for additional send sessions, just to help some of the younger guests cope with the amount of people, the volume of noise, that kind of thing. So we did provide send sessions on this Christmas Build-A-Bear as well, which was actually really beneficial. We had quite a few people take advantage of the send sessions, which had a smaller group setting, and things like reduced noise levels in the cafe, and some positive feedback from that about the fact that we were able to provide so that their children could experience the same as perhaps their neurotypical peers. That was really lovely as well. And not only that, but we also had our local MP and our town mayor join us for one of our Build-A-Bear sessions, which was lovely. It was great to have you guys there, and it's nice to be able for you guys to see firsthand the kind of provision that we're putting on there. So it's lovely. I appreciate your attendance. Over the Christmas period, our activities included a letter writing to Santa and making reindeer food. We worked with the town centre manager for this to create a bit of a link between different areas in the council. So yeah, we linked to the Twilight Markets and their Santa event, so they could write their letters and go and hand deliver them to the big man himself, which was lovely. Yeah, so currently I've got no issues or updates with the parking or any kind of concerns from residents. I'll make sure to keep close relations with CBC coming into the summer season to make sure we're prepared for that. So we've had the TV installed at the cafe. Grove Corner are making great use of that during their sessions. It's also proving quite a valuable tool in terms of marketing and displaying additional information for the cafe. We're hoping to get, in conjunction with Grove Corner and Older People Services, we're hoping to get a over 55s breakfast club up and running. From what I can gather, the there's been a lot of interest, and that's hopefully going to be starting in 2 weeks' time. We noted that there was quite a wait list for the Older People's Lunch Club. So initially, invites for the breakfast club were sent to those people on the waiting list for lunch club to give them like an alternative whilst they're waiting, and then it was opened up to kind of the wider community, so hopefully helping to alleviate some of the pressure on the lunch club there as well. This past week we've trialled running some activities, so similar to the October half term, where we will kind of provide activity packs that the communities can come in and utilise, based at the Home Ed community. They have proven really popular. At one point it was standing room only in the cafe, and we had people out utilising the park and the play equipment whilst they were waiting to get in and get a space inside the cafe to use some of the activities that were provided. So again, that was really popular. We've done 2 in this past week, with an itinerary for the rest of January in place. So hopefully we'll continue to see success with that initiative. And I look forward to hopefully continuing it down the line and being able to show you the impact on kind of the cafe income with that goes alongside that, as well as our increased kind of standing within the community. Cafe is now part of the Chatty Cafe scheme. I don't know if many people have heard of it, but it's a scheme basically based at trying to reduce loneliness and isolation in the community by providing chatter and natter tables, so people can frequent them if they're struggling. The scheme itself, the people run it have kind of told us that these initiatives work better if someone can facilitate them. So we are advertising for a volunteer to come and sit at these times. I believe it's on a Thursday between, I want to say 12 and 2 or 1 and 3, to come and sit at the cafe and just provide a welcoming space for someone to come and chat to. I have had an email from the scheme already to say they have had a volunteer interest, so that's looking great as well. Hopefully we'll have someone in place there shortly. Sorry. So alongside the Chatty Cafe scheme, just running alongside it, we're hosting mental health matters drop-in sessions. So they're every 3rd Thursday of the month, but alongside the Chatty Cafe scheme. So during these times, we are offering a little bit of a reduction in our drinks prices, hopefully to encourage people to come down as a bit of a well-being initiative for the community as well there. So looking at the catering income there, so the table does show we do have quite a variation in our weekly income. Normally this is indicative of the weather trends, number of football games that have been on inside the recreation ground. It also shows that our half-term activities and Build-A-Bear sessions positively impact the cafe income quite significantly. We're hoping to continue that income through party bookings, future half-term plans and venue hire. Off the back of our Build-A-Bear sessions and their popularity, I've had people asking if we can facilitate smaller sessions for individual groups. So we've now got a Build-A-Bear party package available as well. So hopefully that's also going to increase things there. Come April 2025, we will be having a price revision on the bar and catering and our cafe prices, alongside variations in the menu to hopefully expand the customer base that we cater for as well. Do believe that's everything from me.
Wow, thank you, Lauren. I mean, congratulations on an excellent report again. It has been fantastic, and I would like to put on record my thanks to you on the inventiveness of how you come about with all these different ideas and you know the fresh touch you've given to the whole thing. It really has been a fresh air. So thanks very much for your excellent work. Can we throw the members now for any questions? Madam?
Thank you, Chair. Lauren, thank you for all that you do. It's really exciting to see all of the different events and your really proactive approach where you've gone out to the playing football and inviting them for drinks and all of the different topics, themes that you've looked at and explored. It's just really proactive, and it feels like that particular asset is becoming a really community focused place for people to visit. like you said, I did attend the Build-A-Bear, Christmas Build-A-Bear session, and it was brilliant. I actually overheard one of the attendees commenting on how the Sen session for her child was, you know, just really beneficial because it's not something that's really widely available. So I think it's great that you look at that element of it as well. And I like the fact that there are different, hopefully different Build-A-Bear topics coming up, because I saw people that have been at the Halloween one bringing their bears from the Halloween one to the Christmas one. And I think it's great that families don't have to travel all the way to Milton Keynes or Brent Cross or wherever to attend their session. So it is really, really good that you are doing those. I just wanted to also comment on the Chatty Cafe scheme. I think it's brilliant that the mental health element's being looked at. I also love the fact that at the weekend, the Flyby Cafe also advertised Bennett's Rec Cafe as being part of the scheme. And I thought that was really nice of a different business to promote one of our assets, and, you know, because it's all about mental health. And it's great that the Mental Health Matters session is offering half-price drinks. So yeah, everything that you're doing and social media coverage it's getting is really, you know, increasing the coverage of what you're doing there, and hopefully it's having a knock-on effect. And I'm sure you're going to have an excellent spring and summer. So thank you.
Thank you. Does any other members wish to? That's all.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of this particular committee, but I just wanted to ask, we've tried to encourage the sale of some items also on sale in Priory House. And I thought things like tea and jams and chutneys and things would be entirely appropriate. I was wondering whether the weekly income has actually been the result of the sale of any items that perhaps are replicated from Priory House.
I think I can't remember the last meeting, I had spoken to Lisa over at Priory House, who had tried incorporating sales of Priory stock whilst running it as pop-up Priory the year previously. She spoke to me and said that unfortunately they didn't get a lot of uptake on people coming in and purchasing those kind of items. The problem we're having now, so we're not currently stocking anything to sell. Realistically, it's more for us, we don't have the space to unfortunately hold items in stock, especially those that have a potential to expire. So things like the jams and chutneys and things, just because currently we're not getting the additional footfall that we might need to get them sold in time. Hopefully, as I'm still getting people come by to me and go, oh, really sorry, I didn't realise you were open in the winter. So we are still trying to get word of mouth out there. We are aiming to get a bit of a poster and a flyer drop done around town so that we can again try and increase awareness that we're open. Hopefully, once that footfall starts to increase, just kind of like as a general footfall rather than me trying to put on events to encourage people through the door, it is something hopefully we can revisit then. We also, with things like the Build-A-Bear and with like through the summer, just having additional sales, things like swim nappies and armbands, things like that. Again, it's just a case of having the space to be able to display them in a manner that will actually mean that they're going to attract the right attention so that people do come and buy them. But it is definitely something I'd like to revisit again in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wish to?
I'll just say, Chair, after the home ed sessions they did, we had a flood of compliments come through about that session, which Lauren won't say, but I'll say that they said how good it was, and it seems there's a real big home education community out there that are looking for real places to go and do things. So there was lots of really thank you, it was a great session what Lauren put on, just having somewhere. They then said, what else you do? So they all came down to the Friday board game session. So it's just evolving. And then it's something Lauren could look to expand to do some outdoor home ed stuff as well. But the home ed community knows there, so they'll come down to the park more and just use the cafe more as well. But
I think there's already talk of some of them wanting to potentially use the venue for some D&D sessions and some Pokemon Go based sessions as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I'm terrible at
No,
terrible at passing on the positive feedback we receive.
it's always fantastic to get such positive feedback, and it's well deserved. And I really do mean that from around the table. I can tell that people feel that way. Paul?
And just, I'd encourage members to look at Google reviews of Bennett's Cafe.
Thank you.
It's on you, so well done. It's a personal achievement. That's very commendable. Something to be very proud of. Excellent. Does anyone else have any other points they'd like to? Councillor Jones.
Just it's really exciting to hear that how we've managed to go from a closed winter piece of land and a cafe that we didn't entertain opening to having a vibrant cafe and an even busier cafe that's getting busier and busier. Obviously with the splash park season veering its head at us, how viable is it going to be to be able to maintain all of these activities whilst the splash park itself is open? Because the momentum, we can't afford to lose the momentum because you've done such a fantastic job. So how can it be integrated, incorporated into making it a continual thing? Because, you know, we just wouldn't want to lose that.
No, it's a very good point, and you know, now's the time to think about that before it becomes a panic when the better weather comes. So
And it's
you know,
really
it wants to be a victim of its own success, and
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
fantastic. We've opened.
credit to you that you've made such a success. But we, as you know, Councillor said, we need to make it maintainable and manageable as well, so it doesn't become overrun.
It's fantastic that we're getting it commissioned a lot earlier. You know, potentially we've got Easter late April, very close to our normal opening date anyway. So if we have a nice Easter, at least you'll be in that position to be able to open it. But yeah, it's just, and the feedback is so I've looked at the reviews and they are, you know, really, really positive. Definitely things we should be shouting about.
So just a couple of points to take away on that. The first is that in the winter, one of the big challenges Lauren has is that the venue is shared with footballers who use the changing rooms. So particularly on Saturday, so that means the changing room space isn't available to the team running the cafe. And obviously, once the splash park is open in the summer season, that changing room space is then typically used for storage for the splash park. So there may be an opportunity to use the changing room space a bit more creatively during the summer to keep something going, possibly. Not necessarily the nicest space, but actually it could work to do some things. But there may well be a question, if we have a really successful season this year, we then need to start to think about, do we need to somehow expand that space a bit to put a container in for storage, or somehow make it possible to run the cafe better alongside football changing at the same time? That's a slightly longer term challenge.
Okay. Amazing keeping that building active. Did wonder though, financially, the whole reason for us extending the opening times of the splash park was to try to make money. How are we doing actually making it profitable? Or is it costing us opening to run these things? Because that was the point of us trying to keep it open. So I don't want us to talk about next year, the year after. It's just a financial burden by running these. When we've got Grove House, we've got an empty room next door. We've potentially got Priory House upstairs. We've got all sorts of other areas that we could do this kind of stuff in without the burden of this. And with all credit to getting the space used as we're paying for it to be open.
So the short answer is it will never be a profit-making activity.
Broken even.
It's not quite breaking even at the moment, but it's early to say. The challenge that we have is that we've very much done this on a develop it and see how it goes basis through the winter season. There's a real head of steam at the moment, as you've heard tonight. So kind of end of April time, we'll be able to better answer that question. But of course, we need to set the budget now. We can't wait until the end of April to set the budget for next year. So we're going to have to make a decision on, do we keep going another 12 months before we're able to do a complete review of the business from this year. So I would anticipate we're going to run for another 12 months, but then come the summer, we'll have a really clear understanding of how this winter's gone. And then for next winter, we'll be able to start really well, be better place to make money better from next September. So by the time we get to this time next year, then we'll have a really clear understanding for the following financial year.
I would draw attention to members that you know, even if we get to the point it's actually breaking even, that's a fantastic achievement. And when we look at the benefits it gives to our residents and the people, you know, especially on the feedback that's already been given, you know, it's enormous. So if we get to the point where as a council we're breaking even on something that's given us a massive achievement to our residents, and I think that is a really successful position to be in.
Yeah, as long as we're not losing money, that's fine.
Yeah, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to say about the TV and the ambience that it produced. It's great. The TV on the back wall, that's new. So it had like lovely Christmassy images on it going via. That was really good, and it's great that I think Grove Corner also making use of it. But I also just wanted to add on to the point that was just made, that I think given that this is the first year that these activities have been introduced and it's not widely known yet that the cafe is even open, I think the figures are pretty good. You've had to generate that from scratch basically and get really innovative in the types of events and, you know, how you've drawn people in. So the fact that anyone's gone there and there is an income, I think that's brilliant, considering we wouldn't normally be open during those months. So if that's our starting point, what's it going to be like next year when more and more people hear about it? I think it's got the potential to, well, at least break even. You know, I think even if you look at the end of summer party, that, I mean, that was just like record taking £1,000 on just that one day. So the potential is there, isn't it? The people, if you build it, they will come, so they say. And I think you are definitely building it and people will continue to come. Your reputation, yeah, is speaking for itself. So I think it's brilliant. Well done for the first year being open during the winter season.
And I think consideration, you know, also needs to be made on the summer. This year's summer was pretty poor. So, you know, that didn't bring the footfall and the cash flow is expecting either, but who's to know what next year's going to do? That's completely unpredictable with British weather. But, you know, based on, you know, that the worst case scenario of this year's weather, you know, let's hope it can only improve, and that will obviously have an effect on, you know, income as well. There's just a couple of questions that I've got. I'd like to ask in relation to the fun run at Houghton Park, Houghton Hall. Could there not be an agreement with them to alternate this so we could, you know, those particular runs, so we could, you know, share the capacity across the venues on?
Can definitely approach them with regards to whether that's something that they would be willing to.
It would probably, I mean, it's run by Park Run, the organisation,
Yeah.
so they're well established there. So
So it may well be that, yeah.
they probably won't want to know because it's a fixed. But our hope is that it becomes very popular there, and then they look for some other facilities.
My second point on that was regarding, I know there's been some issues with parking in the summer months, and I know we spoke at length before about, you know, see if we can get some seasonal parking restrictions in place around to help with, you know, residents' concerns in that respect. And I know that's probably still being looked at by CBC, but I would like, if we can, to put that on the action tracker so we can at least keep, you know, that monitored so we can see where it goes and update members so it doesn't get lost, because I think it's an important point. Sure, you had the hand up first, but I don't know.
Just on that point, I'm pretty sure that CBC already resolved to put in parking restrictions on the road next to Splash Park, and I'm sure we already discussed that previously.
That had been confirmed.
I spoke to them towards the end of last summer, and we're looking at a few different options to explore. One of which was that the road became parking permit holders only. However, the issue with that, I think they said, was that it relies on the residents paying for permits, and because it's such a small area, there basically aren't enough residents to pay that would cover the monitoring of it and the kind of keeping it effective. The other potential was it going fully to double yellow lines, but again, this could inconvenience residents there if they had family gatherings, they had guests around, that kind of thing. So yeah, we kind of said that the last kind of option to explore would be seasonal parking restrictions. I think which I think is a single yellow line with an information sign up.
I thought that was what was agreed.
Yeah. I think so. I can get in contact with CBC again myself if you'd like. I do believe that because it's a residential parking space, I think the request has to go through residents rather than us as a business within the park or with us within the council. I can double check. I think that was the impression I got last time I spoke to the kind of parking department within CBC, but I'm happy to get in contact with them again and just to kind of confirm what next steps would be and where it needs to come from.
I think from the council, we agreed that the seasonal one was the right way to go because it's pointless putting restrictions in that are not really needed in the winter months. And I think that was the right balance that's agreed between the residents and users of the actual park. So it would be interested, obviously, you know, to progress that however way it needs to be progressed, but also to put it on the action tracker so it doesn't get lost and we can keep members updated with that. Councillor Jones.
As always, parking restrictions are great if they're enforced. With the budget changes ahead at Central Bedfordshire Council, we don't know whether there's actually going to be enforcement taking place. So we just need to be mindful of that. And I think also this has been an ongoing issue around parking since with Splash Park opened, but it wasn't as bad as it was in the first 2 or 3 years. People are getting used to parking in the town centre car parks. You know, James, you used to have to go almost put your armour gear on, didn't you? Because you were really dealing with some, you know, awful situations, but it hasn't been as bad for a couple of years, but it's still noticeable when we've got peak summer. But we do have to bear in mind that enforcement has to take place.
We can only do our best though, trying to put seasonal restrictions in place. Obviously, the actual enforcement side of it is down to CBC. It's out.
You also have to remember that Bennett's Close, the adjacent road, is such a narrow road as well. You get a row of traffic parking down there, you will not get your emergency service vehicles down there. And predominantly that is an older people's area of living in those bungalows.
I believe that part of the CBC budget is that it is due to be outsourced. Just sorry for jumping in, I apologise.
Councillor Holland to go.
Sorry. Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Chairman. Just getting back to Bennett's being a park run venue. Park run is 5 kilometres. I don't know how many times you'd have to run around Bennett's Rec to get to 5 kilometres, or whether one would be looking at it as a start and a finish. But I'd be concerned a little bit about the wear and tear on the grass if you've got sort of 50 odd people running round. There is also a park run up at Dunstable Downs as well. So we'd be in between sort of 2 fairly well established ones. You also need a number of marshals or volunteers as well. And depending upon entries and exits of the park and various roads, if you're going to take the park run outside the park, then you need marshals on every sort of corner, really. I mean, former Mayor Councillor Jones did organised a run, and it was quite an organisation to get it actually off the ground.
So the event I approached Park Run over was being a junior park run event. So the junior park runs, they do a much smaller circuit. It's between 1.6 and 2 kilometres, which I believe worked out at like 1 and a bit or 2 laps. It wasn't a great deal many laps of the park. The reason I approached them in the first instance was just because I thought it'd be quite a nice safe environment. Parents could, if they wanted, kind of grab a coffee from the cafe and they can see the whole park. And with Park Run running it themselves, I believe they organise the marshals side of things as it's their business, their kind of company that runs it. Yeah, so I did approach him with being a junior park run because again, with regards to wear and tear of the parks, I thought same issue as you raised. I felt that 5k might be a bit much wear and tear around the edges, which is why I kind of aimed at more at junior park run, just because I know it's a smaller course and they're much smaller people running it, so hopefully the impact wouldn't be quite as not as heavy footfall.
You have linked park runs using for a senior team between Grove House Gardens, Priory Gardens. Then
Need a
you-
license.
yes, this wouldn't be very practical when it comes to thinking.
It'd be a sight to behold, however.
Okay, I think we'll move on to Madam Mayor, and then after that, if anyone is happy, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Madam Mayor?
Sorry, yeah, I just found the bit that I was referring to earlier, in the September meeting on the 9th. It was suggested that Bennett's Close would have seasonal parking restrictions May to September from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And that CBC will consider taking that forward, so it's not confirmed. Yeah, so it's hopeful, but I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, right, we'll move on then to the next agenda item, which is the Ranger Services Information Report, the ground declaration. And I think that Dunstable Cemetery, which Mary's going to take us through.
Yes, good evening, members. The grounds team are working hard at the moment in preparing the site for green flag judging in either April or May. A faculty was obtained from the diocesan registrar to allow for memorial stability testing to be carried out in the Priory Church. This has now been completed. There were no memorial stones to be found unstable or any cause for concern. The expenditure and income report is in Appendix 1 and is showing a positive variance of 70,000. And then moving on to allotments, there are 269 people on the waiting list, which, as the report indicates, is 33 less than reported in September. I have noticed a slight reduction in people wanting to put their names on the waiting list, but that could also be down to the winter months. We have just completed the invoices for rent for the allotments for 2025. These have all now been sent out, and we've had 7 people give up their tenancy at the moment, so we may get a few more. That's it. Thank you, members.
Thank you very much, Mary, for the reports. I believe that the allotments, as far as allotments is concerned, the waiting list has actually gone down a little bit as well because of the new policy that we've had for notice to cultivate, and the new policy was effective from the 1st of January this year. So I think that, as I understand, that has helped out as well. So we'll be interested to see how that affects going forward and how things are improved upon that. Okay, do we have questions from members on any of that? That's fine.
With regards to the waiting list for allotments, it's been that high for. I mean, I commend you guys for the efforts getting it down, because it has been obviously considerably higher. I was just wondering, because it has been that high for quite a long time, like in the 200s. Do you know what the longest wait is currently? Like, who has been waiting the longest, but what is the amount of time that the person waiting the longest has been waiting? Do you know?
Approximately 2 years.
Yes. Okay, cool. That was it. Thank you very much.
Okay, do you have no other questions? Right, okay. So moving on then to recreations grounds, which is Demi's going to take us through.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Since the last report, since the last committee, there hasn't been any incident of vandalism to pillar equipment, which is great news. Hedge cutting and leaf clearing activities have been almost completed, and all preparation works are in hand for the forthcoming grass cutting season. Football season reached its mid-season point, and the grounds team continuously carrying out the pitch marking activities. As you may see in the report, the photo of one of the new Ford Ranger vehicle, which has been delivered and collected last week and this week, and the sign work will be applied on the 22nd of January. In terms of town center and town ranger work, the winter and spring budding plants have taken well and they started flowering. Also, the summer bedding an order for the summer bedding plants has been placed. Town rangers have completed more than 80 jobs requests, which have been received from member of publics and internally as well. Any question on any of the items?
Just comment to say that it's great to see the Ford Ranger pickup that's suddenly coming, and we finally got delivery of them because I know we've been waiting for some time. But they look great, and it'll be great to see them out and about. I know that the workhorses, as John keeps telling me, that of the area. So I'm sure that they'll be well received, and their reliability will be, you know, much appreciated.
It's just on the notice of when the teams are going to go around to different wards to do work. And we tend to get it the same week that you turn up. Is there any way of getting the notices out sooner to the public and to the councillors?
Usually the rangers put the notice a week ahead.
The last one for South, I think, came up about a week ago, being the last week, and like you were saying that you're going to be there that week, and so by the time we got around to it, I think you've been involved.
Most certainly we can look at it and then just put
So
they can arrange the weeks out. Yes, absolutely.
Close to them.
Have any other comments, questions, members? Jamie, is that you've got any more to add on that? No? Okay. We move on then to Green Spaces projects. Kathy, who's going to take us through this?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. So I'll start with the pergola project at Priory Gardens. The old wooden pergola has now been dismantled and removed, and the adjacent beds have been cleared. 4 of the original climbing roses have been retained, and as they grow back, we'll tie them into the new pergola. An additional planting scheme will be added of more roses and perennial plants once the new pergola has been installed. A contractor to install the new pergola has now been appointed, and we do have some fixed costs for the archaeology that will take place while the works are being carried out. However, if during the installation important archaeology is discovered, it may mean that we have to delay works, and that may increase our costs also. So it's therefore we've decided to postpone the installation of the knee rail until the full costs for the pergola installation can be known. There is a list of budget items just underneath for your consideration there, but it does, at the moment, it does look like we've got slightly less for the knee rail than we had originally hoped for. So we would need to reconsider how the knee rail is installed in time once we know the full cost of the pergola installation. If members wish, we do have some technical illustrations that can be shown on screen now, which John would take you through if you wish.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I think George has got some drawings to show us. The first one shows the pergola in 3D, and what you've got is basically a series of arches. You've got the beam across the top, and then down either side and across the top you've got what we call the straining wires. Kathy's got one of those straining wires there just as a bit of an example here. And those are actually tensioned, and they can be retensioned if they get a bit slack, and they're there to support the plants that we will grow up and over the pergola. Just if we just go in a little bit, yeah, just zoom in a little bit if you could. You'll see on the inside of the uprights on the left-hand side, you'll see a little bit of lettering, and that's where the walk through time messaging will be shown on the actual pergola. So if we could go to the next one, Georgia, please. The diagram of the arch on the left is the view that you would get if you were entering the pergola from the Priory House end or from the Priory Church end. And that's where it says a walk through time. So 4 of the uprights will have a walk through time on them. And then the next drawing to the right, ignore the zigzag lines. They're just drawing breaks for the purposes of bringing the thing into scale. You can see some lettering down the so this is so you're standing in the pergola looking out, and you're looking at the various messages or timelines on the inside of the pergola uprights. And if we go to the next one, please, Georgia. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, these are the 14 timelines that have been chosen to represent the site throughout the ages, starting with prehistoric. I'm not going to read them all out. Dissolution of Augustinian Priory at number 8, and then Priory Gardens awarded Green Flag Heritage status, being the last one in 2020. So those are the key messages. Now, at a couple of locations on the pergola, there will be some QR codes added, and if people want to go and find more information about any of those things, they can do so by using their phones and the QR code, which will be hosted on our website at some point in the future. And then we'll just go to the last couple of drawings very quickly. That is an illustration of the laser cut panel, which would be added to each of the uprights. And that shows the uppercase and lowercase lettering that's been chosen to be in keeping with the history. And then this one here shows you the same thing, but with a black background. Now, just to explain to you, we think that the pergola should be entirely black, and therefore the item that is clad to the post with the writing on it will be in black, and the background to that will be stainless steel, so that you can actually read the lettering through. That just gives you an illustration of what we're trying to achieve. I don't think we've shown you those technical drawings in quite that detail before. We hope that you very much like them, and happy to take any questions on that before we move on to the last 2 items for Kathy's report. Have you got any questions on the pergola while we're?
I would just first of all like to say, you know, I think it's a really impressive design. You know, I think we're all excited about seeing this. It's been a long time waiting, and I know there's been a lot of battles with the different budgetary concerns and has gone on. So it'd be fantastic to see it finally come to fruition. You know, and for the examples and things that we've seen at the moment, I think it's going to be an excellent thing. You know, a real something to be proud of for Dunstable. I think the QR code is a brilliant idea. You know, and how that brings the whole thing to life. And it creates interest. You know, I think it's fantastic how it's been pulled together. So you know, I really want to thank everyone involved in that, of how it's been achieved. Sorry, a number of people. I think Councillor Henderson was first. So
thank you. You know, it sounds great. Just out of curiosity, when you refer to archaeology, are we literally talking about artifacts that potentially are buried? Or does it mean something else?
Yes, it
does mean
it does mean that, because it's listed as an ancient scheduled monument. When the works to install the pergola take place, we'll have to have archaeologists there carrying out a watching brief, and if any significant finds are found, we'll have to stop work. Yeah.
Can't work out whether I hope you do or yes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the hope is because
baby Hugo.
Yeah. The hope is that sorry. The hope is that because we deliberately have used the existing excavation holes where the old pergola was, that we won't find anything significant.
Thank you.
I think it's worth bearing in mind that, a significant amount of costs and effort and procedural things. Yeah, you know, digging a hole out there is an absolute nightmare because you can't even begin to pick up a spade until you've you know, crossed so many I's and dotted so many T's. So it has been quite an expense and quite a journey, but we're getting there. Councillor Brennan.
So it looks awesome, obviously. Does it make sense? Well, like the stainless steel things with the writings on them. If you look in any park at any like stainless steel play equipment, it's got Brian was here or something scratched into it with a compass or something cool. So does it make sense that we would buy more of those so that we have a replacement set? Would it be cheaper to buy more of them now so that, because they are going to get damaged, especially because when you're in the middle of the pergola, when we get into the middle of it, it's going to be covered. We're relying on the CCTV cameras to as a deterrent, but once you're in the pergola, you're going to be invisible to anyone, absolutely everyone, and people are going to do unspeakable things to this thing.
CCTV.
You're not going to be able to see it. It's the point. It's going to be, you're making a tunnel.
Yeah.
You're making a tunnel, and you're putting shiny plates of metal inside that tunnel, and people are going to disfigure them. Does it make sense that we buy more plates so that we can replace them? What is the estimated repair to keep this thing nice, so that like in 2 years' time, when we want to replace these things, if we already have a set of them, you know, is it cheaper to buy them now while they're already making them, is the question.
It's not cheaper to buy them now. It'll be whatever the cost is at the time. If you take that view about everything you do in your parks and open spaces, you'd never actually build anything. So we put playground equipment in. We have to look after it, maintain it, clean it, deal with the graffiti, make repairs. You've got adequate repair and maintenance budgets within the budget that you've just put forward tonight. They should be sufficient to be able to deal with, hopefully, the very limited number of items that you just showed. But I'm confident that you do not need to buy those right now. The stainless steel will be on the inside of the plate, so the whole thing will look black with the stainless steel back, so that you can see the wording better, so that the actual shadow works. So you've got a lighter stainless steel background behind the black lettering, because it's laser cut all the way through.
And I think we need to bear in mind as well that we, you know, the CCTV vision that we're going to try and get, you know, sorted out, that it's going to see down this, and hopefully some signs up to say that people will notice that you're on CCTV will help to deter a lot of the things that you've got concerns about. But they're valid points. Councillor Pauling.
So I had exactly the same thought as that, but the opposite way around. That the black powder coating, I presume it's going to be, will be scratched with the lovely, easily cleanable stainless steel hidden below it that could just be bleached over and removed. But the design's the design. The question I'm really most interested in is the QR codes. So they can't be put on until the website's up. You can't put a QR code up and then build a website around a QR code. So have we put that into our kind of timeline with renewing the website? Because as soon as when you build a QR code for anything, you could do a QR code for any photo you put online or any website, and then that is the QR code. That link is to that. So we can't. This thing is the website going to be built before this is finished, so that we can get the QR.
Add the QR codes as stickers.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's fine.
Very simple stickers, so they can be added at any time.
Okay.
Which might help, and then we could probably coincide that with the time that we relaunch the website. Which
did we not say that the QR codes actually can be laser etched?
That's what I was going to say. That's what I heard originally.
No, there is an option to laser etch them, and there's an option to have them as stickers. The laser etching is an additional cost.
Okay, stickers.
So I prefer to go with stickers because you get the flexibility as well. And I'm mindful that we would also like to still do the Nero.
Okay, absolutely. So I'm aware that Paul just wanted to.
Just technically on the website, it's very simple to create a website page now. Just put a whole thing up on there, and the web address will transfer to the new website. So there's not a test.
There's a couple of members that also want to come in here. I believe that councillor Hollick, I think is.
Mr. Chairman, there's currently a couple of thousand out for the knee rail as it currently is designed. I'm a bit concerned about modifying the design and what one might lose in that respect. I'm sure the Friends of Priory House and Gardens over the course of the next few months would be trying to raise a little bit more money. And if the knee rail can be delayed until such time as the Friends have perhaps raised that extra couple of thousand, I say at current expenditure, then I think that that might meet the goal that we're trying to achieve.
Councillor Hollick. Councillor Jones.
So my point was around the fantastic contribution that Friends Group of Priory House and Gardens has managed to raise towards this project for us as a town. How are we going to recognise their contribution financially? Because once that pergola is up, are we envisaging an interpretation board or a plaque or something? Because I don't think it's right that we don't have something somewhere that says this was heavily contributed by the Friends of Priory House and Gardens.
It's not something we've discussed with them yet, but it's something we do intend to discuss with them to work out the best way to recognise that. What we do need to avoid doing though is having a proliferation of interpretation boards. We've already got 7 or 8 interpretation boards in Priory Gardens. I don't want to overrun it, so we might need to talk to them about what how best they would like to be recognised for that project. Yes, certainly in any publicity and promotional material that we do, they will be given absolutely top billing as one of our partners to having, successfully delivered this.
Yeah, it's a significant amount of money that small group of volunteers have raised, and I wouldn't want it to go on, untouched and missed.
And as well as the money, it's been all of the consultation and the contribution to and knowledge.
Councillor Kotarski, I think we'll move on.
On the financial point, not to be agreed here, but it's raising further monies for this knee rail could be the reason we put for the voluntary donations at the car show. It's obviously held within the grounds. It's very relevant. It'll be very direct to people and they'll understand what it's for. Probably raised another £1,000–2,000 just from voluntary contributions at the car show.
I think that's a very valid point, and obviously I think that's something that needs to be taken forward.
Taking up any others.
There's definitely opportunities there that need to be explored. So thank you for that contribution. Okay, I think we'll allow Kathy to move on now with the Church Street phone box.
So it's just a quick update on the Church Street phone box. We're currently in consultation with our preferred contractor to carry out the works on the kiosk. We are just finalising a review of the items to be included on the quote, and I've actually spoken to the contractor today, our preferred contractor, and the estimated timeline for the works to commence are around March this year. He said that they wouldn't start any earlier because of the technicalities of getting the paint dry properly. They need consistent temperatures of around 10 degrees before they even start to carry out the refurbishment works. But I will keep members updated about the progress of that project. And then on to a quick update on a staff wellbeing event that took place at Mentmore just before Christmas, and where staff carried out works to extend the hedgerow and to fill in any gaps and to carry out some maintenance work. And a very productive but enjoyable morning was had by all.
Thank you very much, Kathy, for that update. In relation to the phone box, I do think, talking things over with John, it's been a silver lining to the cloud, so to speak, that the previous estimates that were coming in extremely high, that we've now got a lower estimate and we've got a better company that are experts at actually doing this. So it will be great to see that come to fruition. But again, that worked out very well. As far as Mentmore hedgerow, you know, it was great to see everyone over there that day, and you know, everyone. It was a lovely sunny day, if I remember, and everyone had great time and enjoyment in doing that. So, again, much appreciated your efforts and everything that's been put forward to that. Okay, so I think that that finishes that particular agenda item. Moving on to the last part is the report from outside organisations. I think that Councillor Katarski was going to give an update for the development committee from CBC, but I don't think there's any further updates or anything to note because there's been nothing.
There's no need to attend any CBC development committees.
Okay. Well, just before we end the meeting, I'd just like to say personal thanks to James and Demi and wish them all the best for their future careers. I'm sure we all agree around the table that and the final thing is to say that the date of the next meeting is Monday, the 10th of March. Closed at 9 a.m.